what do mature twos look like?
I think the two superpower, regardless of the environment, is sensing the need and whatever's off with someone that could be
Mm.
holding them back from something where they maybe that person hasn't even realized it or isn't even in touch with it. Man, that matters in any environment, sensing that internal struggle or in those internal needs of others without others having to speak it into
Mhm.
existence is huge.
Yeah, part of the whole helper aspect, like the part of twos that plays a supporting role, starts in their ability to know where their support is needed. Like the reading of other people is so, like, there's just so many people in the world who don't know how to say or are choosing not to say what they need, and twos can come alongside them and say, here it is, the thing that you needed. And like it's beautiful.
My favorite element of mature twos, and this comes out of their thinking repression, is that a lot of twos will memorize things. And when they recite them, it's not from their head. They recite them from their emotional core.
Mhm.
And so when the two brings up an idea for me, like, or even just watching them, this more like I'm watching this person, and this is an amazing person because when they speak this truth that they've internalized, it just has so much flavor in it. And it's likely the case that if they've taken the time to memorize something, it it meant something to them on that emotional side. This is a grounding thing. It was something that mattered to them being embodied in the community. And that always strikes me as just a true treasure.
Because they're not memorizing data sets, they're memorizing
Right.
wisdom in their hearts.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Connecting with others and meeting others where they are would be secondary for me. I mean, that's what comes to mind. It's just you don't have to you don't ever have to go to the twos side of the line. Twos aren't drawing lines and saying, come to where I am. They're
Mhm.
always, without even thinking about it, meeting you where you are
Mhm.
I want to
and
build
in
on
your
that.
space. Yeah.
I want to build on that because like that's how I meet twos. And that's the person I meet is, oh, okay, you're welcoming and friendly and caring. And a year later, I find out who they are. And it's always a revelation like, oh, there is this person behind that thing that I was originally introduced to. And that person is always surprising to me. And it was like, I actually want to hang out with you. And I didn't realize it because we were, and so anyway, the, the surprising element of the two is always something that a delight in.
I love that. I think there's a real gift to reading the room.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about gifts. Let's go there.
I don't I don't know that anyone can do it quite like a two can. I think a three can do it generally or collectively, but a two knows what did hit and what didn't. And when you're in a corporate environment or when you're in any kind of leadership, anything that involves bringing people along, you have to have someone who can sense what did and didn't stick.
Mm-hmm.
And twos are really good at that.
Because
The
self-reporting
radar after
surveys don't always work.
Correct.
Yeah.
to push forward towards the intelligence center, their gifts are probably going to come out of that for the rest of us. Feedback, I hadn't thought about that. That likewise may be the case for threes and fours as well. Yeah.
Yes, I think for fours than threes. Um, and that's probably just two and four having the line with each other. So it's almost a double amount of it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But saying how did this go, and the person giving real insight.
So it's a good thing, I think, to be motivated to be second.
Mhm.
Like they're
Yeah, talk about
motivated
that.
to be needed and be the helper. And the ways that twos work behind the scenes and get joy from working behind the scenes and supporting someone, for that to be a true motivation. My guess is some of the best leaders in history had a two with them somewhere.
Mhm.
Sure. Well, they're like it. Thinking about in contrast to what we talked about a little bit with eights, the idea of providing space for someone to stand on their own is so good and necessary. We love that. We need that from eights, and some people need someone to stand behind them and hold them up, and that's the place for twos.
Well said.
I do think twos can push forward. And I suppose I have a couple of leaders in mind who I believe are twos. And they have deep desires to elevate a certain person, a certain community. Real similar to eights on this front in terms of they are there to help and are going to gain a lot of their personal value by giving everything they have for this set of people, and they long for the feedback at the end of the day. But as leaders, they are going to navigate social systems with with just a lot of personal energy, a lot of I know everybody in your family's name. I uh similar to nines on this front in terms of like they are building the trust in a collective environment with eyes eventually towards, and of course you and I need to do this thing for everyone else. I suppose that's my impression of how twos who are leaders might function.
I totally see that. I think it's an element. There's this element of, with nines, if you were going to look at the similarities, nines can meet you where they are because they can see it from your side. Twos meet you where you are because they feel what
Yeah.
you're feeling,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
which ends up being an important distinction between twos and nines, right?
Yep.
And there's something so much more personal, so much more invested.
Yep.
With a two.
The 7-8, even the one, we're looking at the future. I don't think twos are looking at the future at all when they're leaders. It is 100% right now, and it is 100% of your needs taken care of. It is 100%, you know, emotionally sensing the group, the organization, the nation. Say it were the case that somebody was a two that was leading the nation. This is how I think that would play out.
And 100% not about the two.
Yeah. Until it becomes, did you thank us? Did you thank me for this?
Sure. But that's not, that's a secondary thing. It's not what's pushing him to begin with.
Yes.
The pull is, I sensed it and now I feel it. When I say that box that has to be checked for twos, it is feeling what you feel well before they ever know what they feel themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And while that contributes to the two's lack of personal boundaries and all kinds of things, in a healthy space, there's such a natural lack of selfishness in there, and its own version of humility that I think is pretty cool. It's not about the two. It's not about me. Like, right. Yeah.
Which is interesting paired with, the passion of pride for the two.
I want to speak to the pride piece because the definition I've always used, I got from my mom. My definition for twos that rings true in my mind is an inability or unwillingness to acknowledge one's own needs and suffering.
I'd love to float this because this is a conversation TJ and I routinely have in terms of the nuance of pride. There's that side of things, there seems to be an opposite side of the coin here. I don't know if this ends up being worthwhile for you, but I'd love your thoughts in terms of pride being I have the ability to solve everybody's problem in front of me. That the pride has that angle to it, which is kind of it feels like the opposite side of that coin. But I don't know if that pings for you.
That doesn't as much as I know what you need more than you do.
Mm.
I think that's where
Yeah.
I see the flip of the coin for pride is
Mhm.
I know better than you what you need.
Right.
That's a thing.
And I could talk for days in terms of how each of the types of energy works, but this would all stem in my mind from the fact that nearly all of the two's energy is going outward. And so it's both neglect of self and over uh, investment,
Overextension all the
in the,
time.
yeah,
Overextension. Yeah.
extensions. Bang. However, positives. One of the things I kind of recognize in my life is I don't have any twos in my life. This person doesn't call me. I have this like in mental picture of somebody who actually has a two in their life that really loves them, and they probably get called a little too often. At least that would be the case for me, and yet it's the case that I lack that entirely, and I have the impression that this person would actually be one of those gifts that that this person routinely is kind of I'm on their mind and it kind of elevates. So I don't know if you guys have thoughts on that.
I
In
mean,
fact, both
I
both.
I think there is I mean the relational nature of twos, it requires that they are invested in the relationships that they have.
Mhm.
And that really means all of us who have twos in our life, they care a lot about the relationship. They don't care about how great you're doing at your job or like what things you like. They don't care about your money or your like all of the other things are not part of the consideration, but how well we are related to each other is so important, and it's part of their radar, and it means that they are going to be the type that reach out of nowhere and can somehow for some reason from across the country recognize that I need a phone call tonight and like, hey, just checking in. Like there is an element of investing in the relationship that is just natural part of how to operate in the world, and that relational connectedness is so important for us as humans.
And I would build on that, providing space for vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my mother is a two, and vulnerability is something that I'm, hardwired to avoid. And when I'm in a vulnerable space, I guess anyone could say they want their mom, but I would say when I'm in a vulnerable space, I want a healthy two.
Mm-hmm.
A four can bear witness to pain, and I separate pain from vulnerability. And I think because there's a rawness to vulnerability, man, how great to have someone who literally can feel what you're feeling.
Yeah. Within the sort of trope, the stereotype of the mother hen kind of figure, like there's a protectiveness, there is a providing aspect, there's an emotional care, there is a come lay on my bosom kind of thing. Like there's an element of being taken care of that like we all require from a mother figure, and that is sort of the place on around the circle that where that lives, that kind of nurturing aspect of what we need from mothers. The twos carry that with them always, everywhere.
Both of you have mothers who are twos. Can you speak to the motive of the two in terms of you? You had pitched it as the four, the four is comfortable with the negative emotions, but framing the two was creating the space for vulnerability. What's going on in the heart and mind of a two in that when they create that space?
I think this has to do with the paradox of pride.
Oh,
Because
sure.
good, healthy mothers are like, know that their one job is to take care of their kids, and they're the only ones who are going to do that for the rest of their lives, right? And at the same time, the point of taking care of your kids is to grow them into adults who don't need you anymore. And so the ability to provide that um the space for vulnerability, like people who are good with kids provide space for vulnerability. People who are bad with kids do not provide space for kids to be kids, you know?
Mm.
And so allowing the vulnerability in a way that is comforting and also feels safe, and for people who have had really good relationships with their mother figure, like there's also an element of like not ever having to consider your vulnerability because someone else is already taking care of it.
I
They
like
put
that.
up their mama bear fence around you, and you can just be vulnerable in that space, and it's not something you even have to consider when it's working right.
And there's such a nurturing aspect to it. I want to be as a, yeah, there we've talked about it, all of us before, how there's spaces on the Enneagram where society, especially our society, doesn't allow for the gender differences. And so I want to speak to being the female eight who does not get celebrated in the way male eights get celebrated. I want to make sure to open space for, we keep saying mother figure, but it's just, there's plenty of male twos in the world. And it's that,
Yes.
that nurturing. There's such an element to feelings are okay to feel
Yeah.
that I get from male and female twos. It's okay to feel the feelings you're feeling, to feel them strongly, to express them. There's such a safety to that
Yeah.
that I think nobody else can provide that space like twos can.
Yeah.
Is that message the two? I hate to get off topic here. Is that the message the two themselves want to hear, or are they outsourcing and trying to get their emotional fix? And that's a bad way to put that. But if it's the case that the two is has a difficult time getting in touch with their own emotions, that seems like almost the opposite kind of idea, an opposite kind of encouragement for somebody to feel their full kaleidoscopic range of emotion when the two themselves naturally has a hard time pivoting inward.
Well, the way I always say it is twos, threes, and fours, they're all dealing with that uneasiness within.
Sure.
I haven't found a consistency for the heart triad like there is for anger in the gut triad and fear in the head triad. You hear a lot of words, anxiety and shame seem to be the ones that pop up the most. My language is uneasiness within. So for twos, threes, and fours, when what's inside is just messy, and you combine that with a natural EQ, this natural focus on other people, well, fours live in that space the easiest because of their internal reference point. Twos and threes really struggle. And I think threes deal with it by disconnecting, but twos deal with it by feeling what you feel instead.
There you go. That's the through line that I needed. Thank. Any last words on twos as leaders when they're in social environments?
I think just that that hardwiring of the two to defer to others, when you got it in a healthy two, in a leader, the selflessness that goes with that is can be impactful.
Mm-hmm.
I think particularly of the way that twos are capable of remembering like, of course, the nine wants to make sure that everyone who did the work is acknowledged, but like they twos more than anyone else are capable of saying, yes, I am at the top of this thing, but also I wouldn't be here if it weren't for this person doing this work and this person doing this work and this person doing this work and this person doing, like, not just saying the whole tech crew, but each person's individual contribution is important to get all of us here together.
Very well said.